Good evening, everyone. Calling to order the school committee meeting of the whole, for May 20th, 2025. All rise and salute the flag. Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In attendance this evening, we have Mr. John Kingston, Vice Chair Jacqueline Monterosso, Mr. Anthony Caggiano, Ms. Aisha Milbury Ellis, Ms. Stacy Rizzo.
Yeah.
And Mr. Fred Sinella. Yeah, good. And myself, so we have a full forum. Of course, we have Superintendent Dr. Fowler as well. First, we'd like to get on the approval of the minutes. And we'll
No.
Any questions?
Oh, well, anyway. Yes. Any questions regarding this? Financial reports, there are none. Food service financials, there are none. Communications, none. Enrollment update, none. Personal items, we have new hires, retirements, resignations, and terminations.
We also, Mr. Mayor, we did have warrants in case anyone had questions on those.
Any questions on the warrants?
Then we have a couple.
Mr. Caggiano?
I didn't have a chance to talk to you today anyway, but like number 3, the website content management system, is that a yearly contract that we have or?
Yes.
That's an annual contract with that company to host
Right.
everything involved with the front facing website. Yep.
Contact.
And
What company?
Ed Leo.
and how about 11? No, 50,000.
Every 18 months, maybe.
Okay.
We make a serious deposit to the Pitney Bowes machine so that the mailer is stocked
Right.
with enough funds. Depending on volume, it could be sooner or lesser. So 2 out of 3 years, you'll see that payment.
And one other thing I just wanted to ask you was, sometimes I see warrants for, was it left wing?
Left field.
Left field?
Left field. Now, is that like, it's on our warrants, but is it billed back to capital improvements or?
The reason you'd see them on these warrants is because they're being funded by grant funding, in this case, the ESSER 3 grant.
Okay.
So you have to approve special fund and revolvings through this warrant process.
Okay.
So any left field or other design services, enterprise, construction services that you see here, it's a trigger that it's being funded through grant funding. So you'll see it down in the special funds
Okay.
section of the vote.
Sorry, and also left field is the OPM on the project that we're doing at the Garfield School too. So it's not necessarily related to the new high school building project.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
John, any other questions on the warrants?
I didn't have any. Also.
Okay, any other questions? You got anything, comment?
No. That's it.
All right, we have acceptance of donations and gifts, grants.
So we have one donation that we would like the school committee's approval of, and that is a grant to our fine arts department in the amount of $35,000, and that's from the Murray Bernstein Charitable Trust Grant.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so it's very excited to have that. I know that Kelly Williams is very excited to have a little bit of a cushion to help fund our fine arts program.
And field trips, we have the robotics team. Like, give us a rundown on that, Dr. Kelly.
Sorry, yes, and sorry, one other thing on that, I was looking for this note that I had here. The grant is gonna be used to fund the new jazz ensemble and instrument repairs and purchases as needed for the entire music department.
That's great.
Well, they did a really nice job last Friday. Rock
Yes,
ensemble,
yeah,
and they did a singing version as well. Which is very,
The choir.
the choir.
the choir,
yeah.
yeah. I think one of the things that's most exciting about our fine arts program over the last couple of years, when we've been able to fund it appropriately. And we're so thankful for these grants. As our budget gets tighter and tighter, we want to make sure that we keep those really important programs in place for students. But the diversity that they have brought to the program between, as you said, Mr. Mayor, the rock ensemble, the jazz ensemble, the choir. There's so many different programs that Ms. Williams and her team are developing. It's really exciting to see.
And well, just to bring it up while I was there, I know, Mr. Mucci, no,
Mafucci.
Mafucci, apologies, he's into it and he loves it. But there was a student, first of all, the number of students that stood out, there was a student that was playing the drums and playing at least 4 different instruments, and I think I was told he was going to Berkeley,
Yes. Oh, nice.
Berkeley, School of Music, which is one of the best of the best, so.
Yeah.
I saw it, I was like, I can't believe this person plays the instruments like that, he looked like he should be on a world stage, but, I mean, there were a lot of them.
There's a lot of talent like
But
that.
when my guest said he was going to Berkeley, I said, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so without a doubt, our kids are talented and we have such talented teachers who guide them in that. It's incredible.
I can appreciate it because I know at a couple of times when I was talking to Mrs. Williams, students that could get lost would say, Miss, how can I join? How can I join? So she says, come by my office such and such a day. And those are the kids that you want to come to school. And I think that's what our art department does. It gives something else to offer the student that might not be a sport athlete or a luge major. So let's keep it going. Next, a mariachi band, please.
And also, not to go unnoticed, I know that the students dedicated the performance to Mr. Al Burrell.
Yeah. Yeah. Classy.
Yep. Sure.
While we're on the topic, the rock and jazz ensemble will actually be doing a special performance at the State House next Wednesday. So I'm having an event there for my job and I wanted to make sure we could highlight a Revere music group. So they'll be playing and having a special private tour by Senator Edwards' team of the State House. That'll be really
Nice.
exciting to have them featured there.
You want to give us a rundown on the field trips?
Sure, there's just the one field trip that it's unusual for us, but the robotics team is proposing that they take an overnight summer field trip. They are moving as a team, so it still does need approval by the school committee, even though it's a summer trip. It is overnight. And the students, the team has done some fundraising, and between that and student payment, they'll be funding this, it'll be self-funded. The trip is to, I believe it's Indiana. It's an invitational contest, so they had to be invited they invited robotics teams from different parts of the country to participate, and so we're excited for the kids to have this opportunity.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Cell phone update, Afton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, school committee. My name is Afton Dean. I'm one of the assistant principals at Revere High School. And I'm here to present the work of our cell phone working group at the high school during the second half of the school year, and then to share our recommendation for the upcoming 25-26 school year. So you guys did receive a 10-page memo. Over the past several months, our group has gathered input, and I say our group, our teachers, Mr. Bowen and I have led the group, have gathered input from a variety of stakeholders, teachers, students, caregivers, through surveys and focus groups. We've also done an external data exploration and reviewed cell phone policies and practices across about 20 comparable school districts. Not just looking at what they do on paper, but like what's the lived reality and how things are going. And we've analyzed all this qualitative data and feedback to understand the challenges and needs around cell phone use at Revere High School, with our focus on finding a solution that supports teaching and learning, but is also practical to enforce and address the needs of our school community. In terms of the data and findings, it did show a strong consensus among adults and students that cell phones are a real challenge, despite our district policy, and most agree that we do need an implementation plan that addresses the bigger picture of cell phone addiction and its impact on learning. And as many would agree, it is essentially a mental health crisis at this point. So our recommendation, again, if you look into the memo, there's a lot more detailed reports of our work, including some of the summaries and data from all of the qualitative data sources. But our recommendation are the locker boxes, which you'll see on page 3, exhibit 1. These would provide consistency, and they would give us a clear system for all 100+ classrooms across the high school, rather than relying on different approaches across different classrooms, which has made it really difficult to manage. It's easier for everyone to follow, and especially for our administrators to support teachers day to day, so that we are able to follow the policy to fidelity. And these locker boxes do provide a manageable and consistent solution to reduce the burden on individual teachers and figuring out what they need to do for classroom management strategies with cell phones, but again, making it consistent across all 100+ classrooms in the building. And as an administrator, and I can speak on behalf of my team as well, we pride ourselves on being there and following up in the moment and supporting teachers and being responsive. And I can say that this would allow us to back up teachers with a uniform approach, rather than leaving them to just, enforce the rules differently across all classrooms. And, I think about the importance of admin being able to support teachers. It's critical. And then, obviously thinking about how as a school, we are consistent across the board. Beyond, this would be an important first step. And I think about how this type of implementation plan, what would go beyond that? And, it's more than just simply telling students and families you're putting your phone in a locker, right? I think just providing a why behind the implementation plan and how it supports learning, reduces distractions, and helps everyone focus. And that will be essential to building an understanding and genuine buy-in as we roll this out. So we feel like this recommendation is a first big step, again, to living out the district policy to fidelity.
So can you walk us through, like, how would this work? Is this something that students would be required to put their phone in this if they're taking it out and they're not following instructions? Or is this gonna be where all students place their phones in there at the beginning of class? Like, just kind of walk us through how this looks logistically.
Yeah, sure. So the expectation would be that all teachers at the beginning of class have each student put their phone into an assigned spot. And then they would just distribute those back at the end of the period. So it would be a requirement for all students, not just if they had it out and they're prompted to like put it away. It is all students. And then if students need to use the bathroom, again, it stays in there. They're not using it to have it in the hallway, right? To go to the bathroom.
And so what's the time frame like for collecting the phones and for distributing the phones? And how much of that time is taken away from learning?
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that I have talked to some of the educators that are currently piloting this in their classroom. It takes about 5 minutes at the front end of class, 5 minutes at the back end. And I think about just the natural flow of instruction where students come in, teachers are taking attendance, students are working on their do now. It does naturally build into the flow of class, and I think it also outweighs the natural stoppages during class when you're prompting kids all the time to put away their phones, and the disruption that causes definitely is a lot more of a burden than the 5 minutes on the front end and back end. But like I said, we are piloting these across a few classrooms as we conclude the school year. So I'm looking forward to talking more with those folks as well.
Yeah, I think, first I appreciate the thoughtful research, the quotes on the yonder pouches. I'm all about scaffolding strategies before we jump to the most extreme, which in this case would be yonder pouches. And I like the idea of a clear lock box because it's going to be required in every classroom, unlike the little ones that we have right now that don't fit all of the phones. And so I think it's a good step to see how it pilots and it works, and then we see if it really helps with mitigation, especially because it will be a requirement for all teachers. So my question is, are we looking to pilot this for next school year, starting in the fall?
So right now, we do have it in a few classrooms where we are piloting. Things are working well, but this would be our ultimate recommendation for next year, to have that consistent uniform approach across the entire school.
So it'll be implementation in September.
Okay, so then Well, I'll wait for folks to speak and then I'm gonna refer this to the policy subcommittee, but I don't know if anyone else has comments first.
I'll do the Stacy again, Ms. Rizzo.
I just wanted to say I really appreciated the surveys. And it really looked like you got some honest surveys and I was surprised to see how positive not only the educators, but the families and the students. So, thank you, I appreciate, that's a lot of work and
Yeah,
great work.
it was something that we wanted to put a lot of time and effort in so that we could come with a recommendation that made sense. But also, you know, hear from important stakeholders and hearing from different schools as well, because something is working out there, but what is it?
Thank you.
On that note, you mentioned stakeholders, so I receive emails from educators. They're upset. And not all of them, some of them, are completely okay and they manage the classroom differently. Some of our newer educators probably struggle with managing the classroom with cell phones. I can imagine if I was a new teacher dealing with 20 or 30 students per class. So I just want to make sure that they know that we do hear them, but I tend to go right back to the source and whether it's yourself or Chris we trust you to manage the buildings and I know that you were working on a process. It seems like you may have come to some solutions. The big thing is, that educated buy-in, we've had these conversations. We don't want to implement something or force something down that they're not going to buy into. And also, I would just recommend that the assurance is that it needs to be equal throughout. It can't be, and I'm not trying to, it can't be teacher X is a little cooler, a little hipper, and decides that they're not going to have this uniform policy because they can manage their classroom, but the teacher Y decides that they need to do it. Then what happens is the newer teacher or the teacher that's maybe a little bit wants to use it is the bad guy. Okay, woman, right? So, and the teacher that has been here for a while, that thinks that they can manage it is the cool teacher. And you pin a teacher against student and it makes it really,
Confusing
the
expectations.
policy needs to be uniform. And I think that buy-in is important, that everyone needs to understand that if we're gonna have a cell phone policy that's a little bit more stringent, it needs to be uniform across the board. And that's the expectation of, quite frankly, your job. And I'm not saying that in a threatening manner, but more of, this is the policy that we adopt. We should have the educators buy-in and we want to get that buy-in. But, and then when we implement, it's uniform and standard.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, and I feel like we've had lots of conversations behind closed doors about that, and consistency, like with anything, is gonna be the difference between something being successful or not successful, and I don't think it's any different here, so I definitely agree with you, Mr. Mayor.
And I think that's why I like the survey so much, because it was like 170 educators that participated in the survey, and to get people to participate anymore is difficult, so.
Yeah, it was definitely our focus group. We had 2 sessions, as I had highlighted in the memo. We had an AM in-person session. We had about almost 40 caregivers here. We had an evening session on Zoom just so that we could expand our reach. And one of the consensus was like, we did like a little informal vote and parents or caregivers unanimously voted for this.
And I would add that to the comments that the mayor just made, is that we really are gonna need caregiver support. And so one of the reasons we wanted Afton to present, and hopefully we can get this to the policy subcommittee pretty quickly, so that in June, before we're out of school, we can communicate clearly to staff, to students, and to parents what the expectation is gonna be when we come back for the new year, and then reinforce it again, of course, when we come back, but make sure everybody leaves this year with an understanding of what next year is gonna look like.
Yeah, I think that's it's something we've talked about in our communication plan, and the rollout plan is building that communication and momentum before the last day of school in terms of what plans are.
If I can even make a recommendation with our talented art students, make a video, do a script and show how it works in the beginning of the classroom and during, and create a set, and it goes out to everyone over and over and over again. This is what we're expecting on a cell phone policy when it's fully adopted.
Yeah, no, media is a relevant way to reach them, right?
Right. And I know that they're cool and they're creative, so we'll do something nice.
If I may, first of all, if we are gonna establish this policy, it has to be consistent from day one. So what happens when a teacher is out? Is the sub, who's handling it, are they gonna be updated and follow the policy?
So I think that there's a few, so obviously recommendation here, but I think there's a few pieces to the plan that still need to be ironed out. I would say substitute teachers is definitely one of them.
Right.
I would say that ladder of consequences. So, as we've been piloting this, there's been 2 instances over, I believe, a 7-day period, where students said they didn't have a device. They did have a device, and it's resulted in ladder of consequences. So I think being consistent on that end in terms of what our response is, but then also thinking about all possible scenarios. I think about also students during period 3, like what is the process for students getting their phone for lunch and then returning back? Like just, I think there's a few like
Kinks to work out.
yeah, there's some fine details to work out, but I think, this will be the nucleus of what we build around.
And the other thing I wanted to add was, is like each student could like be assigned a number or something instead of everybody coming in at once and giving the phone, it's each one saying, I'm number 50, number 1, or number 2, is that how it's gonna be?
So that would be our recommendation to teachers, and we would have a plan of what our recommended, initial placing in cell phone into locker box at the beginning of class. So we would develop a routine to share with teachers on day 1.
Okay.
So again, it's consistent across.
Thank you.
So I'm interested in how do you determine whether you have teacher buy-in or not? Like,
Yeah.
how do you know that we have all the teachers buying in? I think everyone has emphasized that enforcement is key. You say, how are other districts successful? They're enforcing their policies, right? So I guess it's crucial that we have that educator buy-in and the commitment to enforce this policy and I guess consistency also with the effects when students are not cooperating with this, that there's consistent action taken as well. So my question really is, how do we measure educator buy-in?
Yeah.
I know we have this survey, but how do we know that we have everyone on board? Do we have them sign an oath?
Well, they
like-
have to sign off on the faculty handbook at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
And this is one of the things that is included in that is that they will follow all policies of the school committee. So if this does go to policy subcommittee and gets voted, then that would be added to their faculty handbook. But it's something that would happen through the routine evaluation process of educators. So
Okay,
if there was a teacher who repeatedly administrators were going in and phones were out and, things of that nature were happening, that would be addressed through
addressed
the
there.
evaluation protocol.
okay, thank you.
I just have one question. Are we concerned about someone taking someone else's phone?
I think in my 3 years here, that has been something that's happened.
No, I mean with this.
Yeah.
Box is open, it's the end of the class. It might even be accidental. Pretty much phones all look alike. And I realized the number, but I grabbed the
Yeah.
wrong one.
Well,
But
if it's
I
accidental,
don't
you'll
need-
get,
Yeah, you'll get it back.
you'll get it
Right,
back.
yeah,
The
but all
issue
right,
is
so
really
I know I
when
was
it's
trying to be
not
kind.
accidental.
What if it's not accidental? I took your phone because I want to see what's in your phone,
So you mean non-accidental?
well,
or-
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I would say in my 3 years here, and I know me and Mr. Bowen were talking about this a little bit.
No, only because they're in the same place. I don't mean someone going in someone's pocket and taking out a phone, but all the phones are in there. I'm sitting in the front of the class. I grab number 5 and I'm supposed to take number 14. I walk out the door. All of a sudden 14 says, hey, my phone's gone.
My
My flip phone is gone.
In looking at the different solutions, this tends to be the most secure in terms against potential accidental, like taking somebody else's phone and or theft.
We're just
I-
worried about our liability. Phones are $1,000 and
Yep.
if someone steals someone's phone because we put it in a box.
Yeah.
Aren't we on the
It's
hook?
a good,
So
good point.
let's hear what her full response is.
So thinking about some of the alternative solutions, specifically the caddies that go over the door, right? Those are not locked. So that would be another potential option that a lot of school
Mhm.
districts have gone to. This is locked, this is secured. It would be the responsibility of the teacher to make sure that, John has slot 1. As John exits the room, John is going to slot 1 and taking out his phone. So it would fall on the responsibility of teachers to be able to carry out the policy and execute it effectively day to day.
But I think
Just a
that,
thought.
that's a great way, that's a great point. And a way that I think that parents and caregivers can help us, because there are a lot of kids who maybe don't need to have their phone during the day at all. And if their child happens to be one such child who doesn't need to have a phone at all, we would encourage them to have them leave it at home. So there are things that parents can help us with to help mitigate this and make it a little bit less of a problem. I know that there is some talk about legislation happening at the state level
Mhm.
that will ban cell phones from secondary schools. And so that's something that could be coming on the horizon. In which case we'd be saying, you know, well, we don't have to worry about these because kids aren't allowed to bring cell phones into schools anymore.
The Senate president's talked about that. She used to be a teacher, which I didn't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, and she has a concern about it. So, and if the Senate president usually talking about something, you know,
Mhm.
generally something happens. It's not in no respect to everyone else, but you know, they tend to get their items on the agenda.
No, but no matter, right, they're not supposed to bring, I think we're still gonna be faced with the same issues.
Always.
You know what I mean? No matter what the policy is.
And one other point that I want to make is, 99.999% of our kids aren't even gonna think about grabbing somebody else's phone. And so we have to keep that in mind, that the vast majority of our kids are good and honest and kind.
Their phones and their
I wasn't trying,
information.
I
I
wasn't
know,
trying
yeah.
to suggest that they weren't, but.
Yeah, no,
Life
I'm not,
happens.
yeah.
Life happens.
And I think there's a lot of like life happens, like what ifs that we need to think about. Like last night I was thinking, what if they're like, what if they're on, say in here and flashing and beep, like
Mm.
what do we need to be explicit about? You need to turn off your phone before you put it in. So I think there's a lot of different nuances that we need to plan for and, you know, that being one of them and,
Ms. Rizzo.
Yeah, I'm not sure why this was presented here. I think it would have been much more impactful at our regular 6 o'clock
We
meeting,
did,
which.
we did it here because Miss Dean has to get to the prom.
I'm sorry.
Get on the red carpet.
Can you
let's
come
go.
back? No, because it is important that everyone hears about it right from the beginning, the buy-in.
I like the
Right
idea
from
of the
the beginning.
video of, and us all
Mhm.
sharing it and getting the word out there.
It's almost like a campaign, right?
Yeah.
Get behind-
Exactly.
get the word out and again, get the word out to all of our stakeholders, because we truly need families to partner with us.
Mhm.
And everyone to understand expectations day one.
Yep.
Stuff.
Great presentation.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Ms. Monterosso.
With that, I'd like to refer this to the policy subcommittee for further discussion. And so my recommendation would be that we know this might take time, the school year is only a few weeks away, so Dr. Hill, you could choose to put out communication that this is something that the committee is considering, so
Mhm.
folks know before the school year is over, even though there's a chance we might not come to that formal decision. That way you all can start planning and preparing people. Not saying that I know what the vote's gonna be, but it helps with your point of, we need to let folks know this is a possibility before the school year is over. And that way we can do our part and schedule that meeting and start to discuss.
Yeah, I could schedule a meeting or at least try to schedule a meeting in the first few weeks of June.
We can have it at the
Thank you
hospital.
so much.
Thank you.
If anyone needs rides home, let us know.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
Can I say that a little bit more
Say
clearly?
it, say it.
The mayor has offered to make sure that any student who might need a ride home from the prom.
Officer Singer will be there. Talk to Officer
That
Singer.
will
We will
arrange
get the rides
transportation
home,
Yeah,
question free,
Mhm.
question free,
Thank you.
to their home, to
absolutely.
their home.
Not to, right, not to the holiday. Inn.
Is that like
Is that
staff
what kids
too, or
Get the rides home.
staff too?
go? Is this
Yes.
holiday inn?
Free
I,
ride.
I will come on my own.
Don't say yes to too many.
Thank you, Ms. Dean.
Thank you.
Have a great time.
Thank you very
tonight.
much for your presentation.
Can I just explain a little bit about the next item on the agenda?
Go for it.
So the next item on our agenda is part of the Advanced Research Independent Study program that the Susan B. Anthony has implemented. Through that, Tekla McGillicott, where'd you go, right there? I almost said Conley, old habits. Is the teacher of that independent study, and as part of our effort to make sure that we're engaging students in rigorous educational experiences where they are able to see and articulate themselves in their learning. Ms. McGillicott has designed this course that students sign up to take. And part of that is that they have to do a public presentation of the research project that they completed over the course of the year. And so we have 2 students with us tonight and their families. Thank you all for being here. And also I want to acknowledge the Susan B. Anthony administrative team is here as well. Gabriella and Rania are gonna share with us information from the research projects that they spent a good chunk of this year working on. And I just want to remind the committee, of course, you can ask them questions and talk to them. Their part of their grade is to present in public. And so that's why they're here. Not necessarily to say that we should put funding into their programs, not necessarily to say that we shouldn't. But their presentation to a public forum is part of their grade, and so that's what they're here for tonight. And I don't know who wants to go first. You guys, you're gonna go first, okay?
Do you
And
mind if I-
Tekla,
one more caveat
Yes,
about that?
please.
So they had two options, to choose for their project, and one was to create an actual change within the school. So the goal was to bring something new or make a change in the school, or to, talk about a global issue, and both of these students went with a school focused project.
And they're gonna be presenting right over here.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Gabriela Villalobos, and I am a student at the Susan B. Anthony Middle School. I am so honored to be here today to speak to you all. And I just want to start off by thanking all of you for having me here, especially Mr. Kingston and Ms. McGill for all her support, and including Mr. Fellows over at the high school. The reason why I'm here today is because I wish to speak to you all about a project that I've been working on. It was done for my independent research class where I was given the freedom to choose any topic that I wanted. And for me, that was to bring this program to the school. As you all have probably heard of, there is a club at the high school revolving around one of the United Nations, or more commonly known as one of the UN. Today I will be covering what Model Law is, a bit of the teaching plan, like the course outline, and discussing the financial plan needed for this to happen. For more clarification, Model UN is a program where students role play as real world delegates or countries of the members of the United Nations. It is usually presented to schools in a form of a club or even class, though the ultimate goal is to bring it to the SBA as a club. Model UN serves as a place for students to learn communication, negotiation, and decision-making skills while still interacting with other student delegates from schools all around the state or sometimes even the country. It gives them a sense of power and responsibility while still being a part of a competitive learning environment. The high school already has one, and they've done an amazing job with it. But I know that there are kids at this young age with the mentality to go along with this project, and they can really profit from this experience. We already have such a diverse community here in Revere, so why not take this opportunity, this uniqueness, and allow students to take their own view of the world and its problems? The program itself, the program itself was created to teach students about contemporary global issues and advance the understanding of the UN. The students are given a country at random by the facilitators of the program to represent and speak about whatever the given topic is. The topic could be about water supply, immigration, or even things like food shortages. The actual program takes place in colleges all around, further benefiting students by giving them a new setting, something different. For example, they've had programs in colleges like Boston University, MIT, Suffolk University, and even Harvard. The way that I got into Model UN was through a recommendation, an essay, and a survey that I had to complete just to be able to get a scholarship. With this program, not only will students be able to enter easier, but parents and students don't have to worry as much about financial restrictions, transportation, and entering the program alone. When I got in, I was overjoyed. I met so many different people, and it was one of the best educational experiences I have ever had. SBA is made up of student leaders. We already have the Writing Center, Community Club, Girl Scouts, and many more kids that are looking for leadership opportunities, or even just places for them to speak their voices. These kids have so many talents, and they can be embraced even more. Kids who have an interest in law, international organizations, speakers, and even kids who are just doing it for fun will find this program endearing. It supports kids who have an interest in writing or speaking, and it guides them. Not only is Model UN interactive, but has amazing educational value that will enhance the students' communication skills, writing capabilities, and even confidence. This program will present students with skills they will forever use. It is not the goal of our school to push the kids to do their best and teach them to prepare them for the future. Model UN will teach them that it isn't just always about winners and losers, but about finding something that they can all agree on. It will provide them with a new setting, an environment where not everything is structured for them, where they will have to learn to make allies, speeches, and proposals by themselves. This itself is deeper learning at its finest, and I know that they can handle this because the students at our school are incredible. The coursework itself for the club is straightforward and would be preparation for future conferences like speaking exercises, debate topics, and speech writing. Students will practice working together efficiently to come up with solutions to their designated topic, to prepare them for actual conferences that are to come. The club will meet one day a week, but the exact date is something that the advisor of the club will decide. Speaking of, I have already approached a staff member at the SBA who is Mr. Avon, a geography teacher, and he has agreed to take on the role as the MUN advisor. Now, our only current roadblock is funding. The grant would be earmarked for three things: money for entering the program, which is also called money that is, oh yeah, sorry, which is also called a delegate and faculty advisor fee, a stipend for the club advisor, and transportation fees. The benefits of Model UN program will far outweigh these costs. If kids in the high school already benefit from this program so much that it stays with them throughout college, can you imagine what will happen if we present this to middle schoolers? I do hope you'll consider fully funding a middle school Model UN club, and thank you all so much for listening. I do have student graphs that I have taken from high school students if you are interested about their opinions on bringing it to the middle school or how they felt doing the club itself. And thank you. Thank you all so much for being here today. It was really nice speaking to you all. My email is up here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm sold.
Mr. Kingston? I had the distinct pleasure of being at the SBA for an event, and Miss Willette, if she remembers, kind of pushed me into the library to watch this presentation. I believe there were 4 presentations that day. That's what I remember.
Maybe 6.
Yeah.
It's small.
Anyway, so I think you should have got an A for the first time you did it. I'll give you an A for this one too. And we'll have a conversation afterwards.
EC.
All the way.
EC.
Oh,
all the
EC,
way.
yeah, I
Yep.
forgot. EC all the way, but I think it's great. And I obviously support this and we'll do our best to try to help you as much as we can. Because I do think it's great and I think you did a great job. You did a great job the first time and you did a great job today. You should be very proud of yourself. For a young person to get up and speak in front of these people, I think it, and as you did, there were even more people at the SBA that day. I think it takes a lot of courage and I really admire you. Thank you.
Well said.
I was gonna say, it's a great program. I got to do Model UN and I even got to travel to Stockholm out in Sweden because we were able to have a delegate sponsored to take us all the way. So it's a great initiative.
Great program, and public speaking is, as you can see, is something that if you're learning in this, it's gonna carry with you no matter where you go. Because you're always gonna be in a role that you're gonna have to address a crowd, especially if you wanna get up there and be a big shot someday. Yeah.
Well, she surpasses my public speaking, so.
Me too, me too, me too.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rani Gupta, and I'm a student at the Susan B. Anthony Middle School. Today, my research topic is about implementing head foods in school lunches. So these are the topics that we're going to be covering for today. Number 1 is my introduction, basically a brief summary of what I would like to achieve. Number two, our current school lunches. What our school usually offers. Number three, steps we can take. What we as a community can do to make our community a better place for all. And number four, my conclusion, my overall message to you. My presentation. My mission is to create a greater inclusivity in Revere Public Schools by ensuring that all students have access to meals that respect their dietary and cultural needs. By advocating for the inclusion of head-ed food options during lunch, I aim to support a more welcoming and equitable environment where every student feels seen, respected, and nourished. This small but meaningful change can help build a stronger, more united school community. So, I will now be talking about what is head-ed meat. Head-ed meat must meet this criteria. First of all, the meat is free from certain prohibited substances such as alcohol, intoxicants, pork, etc. The meat is processed in accordance with Islamic dietary laws. The animal is treated humanely, and the slaughtering process is thought to reduce the animal's pain and suffering. While I was surveying students about my topic, one student told me, "I think the more options students have, the more inclusive our schools will be." And now on to our current school. So as seen on the calendar, 1 out of the 16 days in April offered halal meat. Many parents face challenges packing lunches for their children, when not halal meat is the only option offered in our school. Limited time, financial problems, or work commitments can make daily lunch preparations difficult, leaving children without suitable meal choices that align with their dietary and religious needs, which is why I believe halal meat should be offered along with standard meat and to ensure variety. So while I was researching, I found a few companies that offer halal meat to schools in Massachusetts. Companies like Sodexo, Cisco, and Aramark usually provide halal, kosher, and other specialized food options to educational institutions. Additionally, contacting Boston Public Schools directly to provide useful information on their available halal and kosher meal options, as they may have already established partnerships with suppliers for such meals. Building a unified community. When halal food options are available in schools, it ensures Muslims are not disadvantaged or included in the same opportunities as their non-Muslim peers. It is a matter of equity and fairness, allowing all students to thrive in a learning environment where their religious and cultural needs are met and nourished. My conclusion. Young students need more than just yogurt and light snacks to stay energized and focused throughout our school day. They require balanced meals that include protein for proper growth and development. For students who eat only halal meat, it's essential that schools provide halal meat options alongside standard meat choices. This ensures all children have equal access to nutritious meals that support their health and academic performance. Thank you.
Well, last night I downloaded the Boston lunch menu and was trying to compare it with ours. And then I got hungry. But I am gonna go back, I'm gonna look at it. I know Aramark was our, supplier this year. I know she was trying to get more halal, meats on the calendar. And it was difficult finding someone local for the price that we could pay. But hopefully now that maybe food prices are coming down a little bit more, maybe we can see more days on that menu. So thank you.
Mr. Kingston.
We are going to a different food service provider in the fall. We just signed a new contract, so there may be some changes. I'm not sure. I think I emailed you and mentioned that to you, that we were changing food providers, so I couldn't say how many we were gonna have. The only thing I will say as a positive, on field day, because I've grilled at 4 schools, all the hamburgers on field day are halal meat. It says right on the box, and when I'm handing out hamburgers after I finish cooking them, I tell every kid I see, I said, this is halal, and they're very happy about that, so I totally agree with you. Again, like Mr. Rizzo said, it is a supply chain problem. It's just not enough supplier, and probably someone like Boston is probably grabbing, the areas, so there's 40,000 students in Boston, they're probably grabbing a big portion of the available supply. But it's something we can look at, and when the menu comes out in the fall, we'll look at it.
Yeah, I also want to add that, like, I'm really happy that, Head Ed Meet was implemented in field day, meals. I think that it's important, like, during the day, everybody's running, it's hot, you need that protein, so, I know when I was younger, I think it was like, I had my mom, she used to pack me my lunch for field day, and I greatly appreciate that, and I appreciate that privilege. But now seeing like my sister, she's in Region Public Schools too, getting to see her have like the privilege to eat Head Ed Meat in field day along with her peers is great. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can quickly cover the next one, which is, we had an email from, Mrs. Rizzo about future teacher signing day. And I just wanted to let the committee know that I spoke to Mrs. Finn about that. And we will be having a future teacher signing day this year. We're trying to finalize plans for that and think about when we can actually entice the kids and their families to come. So one of the things that we were talking about was doing it in conjunction with the senior scholarship night. So exact details to follow, but we are working on it.
And we'll have a new person coming in, so maybe that person, makes the tweaks for next year, and
Yeah,
it's kind of last minute.
Yeah.
But
Maybe we could bring that box with us.
in for the.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Doug.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, your turn.
My turn? So what?
good times.
Okay, so we're on 5, correct? Yes. School transportation policy and state mandated requirements. I don't know if you had some data you wanted to share, some new information, Dr. Kelly, or? just a
Yeah,
general conversation?
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things that, I talked a little bit yesterday at the budget meeting was that Matt and I did meet with the Department of Education to talk more about Schedule 19, but as part of that conversation to also talk about, transportation and funding. And, one of the things that was made clearer to us is that, the law actually only requires that you transport students in grades kindergarten through 6th grade. So I know one of the charges the mayor has given to the committee is to consider, what their policy is on student transportation. And I think in past meetings, we had said that you had to transport anybody over 2 miles. That's only true for children in grades kindergarten through 6. So one thing I wanted to do is make sure that the school committee had that accurate information as you deliberate on changes that might be coming to the transportation program. I did talk to the mayor about making sure that we have decisions made sooner than later on this as well, so we can notify families and they can make appropriate arrangements if they need to for next school year.
Well, if anyone has any comments on that, but I just kind of want to reiterate, we had a budget conversation yesterday with the school committee. But it's unfortunate, but school transportation has completely outpaced the city's ability and growth when it comes to, what we return, what the tax implications are, transportation costs have risen 10, 12, 15% over the last number of years, every single year. Our city's growth on revenues is 4%. Even with growth, when people see, new construction and whatnot, the state's, finances, through, I know some people are gonna be in legislators tomorrow. We champion for the UGA. We were given 0 from the Senate. I'm sorry, from the House, 0, not 0. The governor recommended 2.2%. That's was based on what her expected growth is. Even 2.2%, which we're hoping the Senate kicks back in, will equate to, a few $100,000. It doesn't cover the cost, the $2 million increase in cost on transportation. Never mind, as mentioned, $6 million increased cost on health insurance premiums. That $8 million right there is everything times 2 of the city's growth, 2 budget items. So we have to make difficult decisions when it comes to what we can offer, not what we want to offer. If I could send jet planes to everyone's house and pick them up and drop them off. We do that, but we can't. And we also can't bus every single student, and that's just unfortunate, but we have given the city side, because the city pays for transportation. Right? There are reimbursables when it comes to circuit breakers and special education, but the city side funds the transportation. And we've given the superintendent a number to work with. That is higher than last year. Last year, the city gave like 9.2 million. This year, I think we're estimating around 9.7 million. That's a $500,000 increase. That is, do the math, it's roughly 5%. That's what we're giving that number to work with them. I think the onus should be on us to dictate what the city should, or the school should be able to offer for transportation, obviously, given the minimum amount that we have to, we're obligated to transport people with special needs and disabilities, and also certain educational plans and homeless students. But I also think it's a good opportunity to reflect on our transportation companies and what they're charging us, and what we can hold them accountable for. And I also think that, our team, very small team, does a very good job of managing the transportation department. There's only, I don't know, 2 people. And they do yeoman's work, is maybe reflect on the buses, making sure that they're filled and they're being adequately used and appropriated. And they're not just one passenger for a 12-passenger vehicle, that the buses, if they have 50 seats are being utilized. Double runs are something that you work on, and I know that they do a very good job, but that there's always some waste in every program, and I'm not saying there's abuse, but there's waste, just natural waste. Some students decide not to use the busing system, and that seat's empty. City of Boston has dictated that if you don't go on the bus for 3 consecutive days, I believe, they remove you from the busing program, because they're faced with the same burden. And just to put it into context, the Boston's budget is probably 10 times the city of Revere's.
How do they manage that? Like, how do they facilitate that?
I think
Do they have
there's like a fob or some sort of a swiping
That
system
the students
when
have
they
and
go on.
they swipe it when they,
Yeah.
okay.
And I also think it's a good opportunity for us to really investigate the public transportation system that we have in our city that does bus students. I used public transportation for busing when I was in middle school. You grew up in Everett as well. We went to the top of Elm Street, we took the 110 to Broadway, and that's what we did.
Mhm.
And it was perfectly fine, and it wasn't designated to just students. I was a 12-year-old too. And I got on it, put my quarter in the bus. I went to high school. I went to middle school and then high school. And then when I didn't catch the bus, I walked. So it's the unfortunate reality, and I hate to be the skunk at the garden party, but we have to take into consideration the reality of what we're faced with. Do we, otherwise it's one of those where, how many more positions do you want to take a look at? It's not an if, or it's not when, it's a guarantee. We have to make these tough decisions, especially this year.
Mhm.
So what is the next step with that, I guess is
Yeah.
what I would ask,
Could you-
because
Could you repeat? I want to write it down what you said, your statement about what Bessie said, or what whoever said it.
Requires the law only requires K-12 transportation over 2
2
miles.
miles.
K to six or
It's-
K to-
it's-
Six,
sorry.
K to 6.
So technically 7th, 8th, and high school students
Okay.
are not entitled to any transportation regardless of how far they live.
I think we would need, figures and various scenarios
So Matt
and a
gave those.
recommendation. But that was just for if we didn't. I thought that was limited to if we only did 2 miles.
Right.
Do you
No,
know
we
what I mean?
did 2 miles, 1 mile, and no miles for the middle schools, correct?
It was
Across the board.
lottery plus 1 mile, lottery plus 2 miles, no lottery, 2-mile radius. But that was a year 3 saving estimate.
That was right, that was not, right. I think that was in contemplation of the lottery and the impact that it would have if we
Mhm.
financially, if we were to do away with it.
Mhm.
I think for these purposes, we would need probably to hear from the transportation department any efforts that they can make on their end.
So we've done all of that. We've talked to Chelsea and Winthrop about trying to find some economy by working with them to
Mhm.
combine runs. If we have kids that are going to Landmark, the example we gave was if there was one kid from Winthrop and 2
Yeah.
from Revere and 1 from Chelsea. send them on one bus, and at Winthrop pays 25% of the cost, we pay 50%, and Chelsea pays 25%. Our transportation director is working with them now, along with Richie Galucci, to see if there's any of those runs that we can make work. They're really looking in depth at those things.
Okay.
So we really have done all of the work of inspecting every run and every bus and every other thing. What we need to know is, what does the school committee want to do regarding transportation? And then from there, we can make the cuts, and that you can think of as a general statement, a regular full-size yellow bus, because we're not talking about the special needs kids
No.
as much. We're working on economy there, but there's less option there. We're required by law to transport them, so no matter what, that's gotta stay in place. But for the big yellow buses, it's roughly $350,000 a year per bus, is that right? Oh, no, sorry, that's for three. It's about 100.
100,
Yeah, right,
yeah,
right.
That's what you told us before, 100 run.
Yeah,
How much of, and I should probably know this, I apologize, but maybe one of you have it off the top of your head. I know that we're talking about, I mean, the special needs, and the homeless transportation, that really eats up a very large portion of the
It does.
transportation budget. How much is left for those students who are, in district? How much of the pie, if you will, are we talking about?
So we're talking about 25 buses at that rate, so $2.6 million.
Out of the whole transportation budget?
And the whole transportation budget is estimated at 11.7 million.
That's with the reimbursements. It's 14.5 million with no reimbursements. But there's pronounced reimbursements for special education and homeless.
And the city's saying that they're gonna give us 10?
9.7,
I thought
Seven.
10.
9.77.
10. Okay.
They've-
I think there could be some room, there could be some room for champion. However, I just want to make that, just so everyone can put it into context. The city's police department is budget is less than $14 million a year. The city's fire department budget is less than $14 million a year. Okay, the city's DPW staffing is less than $14 million a year. The entire city hall is less than $14 million a year. So we have a problem. We're obligated to help solve, and we have to address it. There's no ignoring it anymore. We've ignored it for a long time. The ESSER money has supported it over the last 3 years. We can't ignore the problem anymore. We cannot.
If I can make a suggestion for us to continue this conversation and the next one under old business, just because we're almost at 6 PM and I don't want us to rush any important conversations.
Yeah, this is a-
Yeah.
I think it should also be brought up surrounding communities with policies are in place and have been in place for years that may surprise an awful lot of people.
Well, right, to show
Most
that
of them get-
we're very
Yeah,
giving.
we've been very generous with our transportation, and it's unfortunately, it has to, I mean, it's been a luxury, and we have to hold that.
And also that there are children that use the bus only mornings, only afternoons. So I think part of the survey or whatever we're gonna work at, it's not a taxi cab, it's necessity.
And I always think we have to be fiscally responsible for our school system, but we also have to think about taxpayers too.
Yep.
And they're taking a good bulk of it.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I think we have to look at.
I think we all
don't know what we're
appreciate,
discussing.
we all appreciate that there's cuts happening
Yeah.
everywhere. So I just think we have to work on,
But I think the mayor kind
doing
of
the best we
covered
can.
what the bus companies themselves are doing. They're bidding singularly district-wide. You don't come into my territory, I won't go into your territory. So when it's the only show in town, they can literally charge what they want.
There's ways to counter that too.
One question I wanted to ask, did you ever think about when we put it out for bid? You see how, like with 311, we work with Chelsea and Winthrop, that we combine the buying power and
Mhm.
say Revere and Chelsea. One bid, you get Revere and Chelsea, and put it out to the bus companies and so on. Instead of each, I think you have more. I think you can,
Negotiating.
right, when we have, at least we have.
I think that's definitely something we should consider.
Mhm.
I have not considered, I really wasn't involved in the school bus
Right.
bidding up until now, and I think I'm gonna get more involved in the next bidding cycle.
I don't know if it's gonna help us for our purposes now, but it's
No, I know.
definitely worth it.
Something to look at.
But I think we need to look at it sooner rather than later so that anything we're doing,
And-
transportation can get ready and make any changes that they need.
The one thing we would say is, it was helpful when we were asked, and I was working with Denise. These two scenarios, can you run the savings on those?
Mhm.
So if we want to run the savings on, there's no transportation for the high school at all, what is that? If there's other scenarios that the committee wants to run, I can sit with Denise and do the similar analytical done. 4 months ago on some of that.
I'll send you an email.
If-
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I don't want us to wrap up this conversation because I have thoughts as well, so let's continue it at 6 p.m.
Okay.
So with that,
Sounds good.
a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
I.
I.
Thank you.